are now in the deep end of horror.
Marc of Horror and Hugsy here, and today we're taking you back to the year 1983. That was pretty much the height of the kingdom. Coming in at number 10, occasionally we have action stars, now that horror's become a little bit popular, action stars doing horror films. And we have that here at number 10 with Charles Bronson in 10 to Midnight, which I have on a huge compilation here. But it's basically a slasher movie, only Charles Bronson plays the detective. Pretty much like The Hero and the Terror with Chuck Norris, or Silent Rage with Chuck Norris. 10 to Midnight with Charles Bronson. Coming in at number 9, as you can see, Viola's very interested. Coming in at number 9, Disney joins horror with Something Wicked This Way Comes, from Ray Bradbury, starring Jason Robards and Jonathan Pryce, Diane Ladd, and Pam Grier. This one is actually a classic. It's both a children's film and a horror film. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Well, it wouldn't be the 80s without a slasher on the list. Coming in at number 8, The House on Sorority Row. Now, the funny thing about House on Sorority Row was it was filmed mostly goreless. The kills were just basically done off screen, and then it turns out the distributors didn't like that. They wanted gore because it's a slasher. So they added all the gore back in, and then the MPAA said, no, that's too much, and then they had to cut the gore back out again. So hopefully they achieved a good middle. It's actually a pretty enjoyable slasher. For once, some of the people joined together, but they do make a lot of stupid moves. House on Sorority Row. Coming in at number 7, You'll Never See It Coming, The Entity. And as you can see, you can't see it coming. The DVD is out of print, and it is way too expensive for me to get. Scream Factory is putting out a new Blu-ray this summer, but it's not out yet. And it stars Barbara Hershey, and I'll probably get it to be a completist, but I really don't like my horror films to have rape in them. And that's the entire premise behind this film, is there's an invisible, ghost-like thing that is raping Barbara Hershey over and over again, and she can't get it to stop, or to get people to believe her that it's happening. Not my idea of fun, but again, to be a completist, I will probably pick it up. But here you go, The Entity. You can see it, can't you? Well, I told you it was the height of the kingdom, and showing up at number 6, this is a wonderful Stephen King adaptation of The Dead Zone. It takes the story in a number of different places, and it does drop one of the major characters from the book, the reporter, who's relegated to just a tiny role, who has a much more important role in the book. But it's fantastic. It's very downbeat, and it definitely earns its ending. David Cronenberg is just fantastic. The Dead Zone. Plus, I recommend this highly because Dead Zone's not available on Blu-ray in the U.S. This is a 3-pack set of David Cronenberg from, I believe, Canada, and it plays just fine on U.S. players. The Dead Zone, Shivers, and Rabbit, all of which are great films. Cronenberg was amazing. The Dead Zone. Not to be outdone, John Carpenter puts his stamp on the King genre with Christine. I highly recommend the 4K version. The colors are just amazing, especially all the different colors that the car is, from the bright red to the really faded out red when they find it in the overgrown lot. It's just absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it. Christine.
What do you mean, came back?
I'm sorry, Arnie, I can't.
I know you're jealous. The kid was cut in half, Arnie.
Riot is over. knew a guy had a car like that once. He killed himself in it.
Well, the king is on a roll. Coming in at number 4 is Cujo. And by the way, in case you wonder why I'm talking like this, when my friend and I went to see Cujo, they had the volume turned all the way up. So we wanted Cujo to kill everybody who was talking. It was not a pleasant movie experience. Watch it on home video. Cujo.
Nothing that lives in the imagination is more frightening than the terror that lives in Castle Rock, Maine.
Cujo?
Cujo?
Can he get us in here? Can he eat his way in here? Can he?
Oh my God, I'm losing my baby.
From the novel by Stephen King, creator of Carrie and The Shining, comes a startling vision of fear.
Please, God, get me out of here.
Now there's a new name for terror. Cujo.
Coming in at number 3, the tragic movie Twilight Zone, the movie. 3 actors died on set, Vic Morrow and 2 child actors, when a helicopter crashed on them. And that's why, in spite of the film being a lot of fun, the studio doesn't really, they kind of quietly release this every so often. But they don't do it with a lot of fanfare. I hear Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone is quite good, and I'm looking forward to giving it a shot. Twilight Zone, the movie. You want to see something really scary?
On June 24th, 4 acclaimed directors, George Miller, John Landis, Joe Dante, and Steven Spielberg, take you to another dimension.
Alright, coming in at number 2, you've always wondered what happened to Norman Bates after he was released from the psychiatric hospital. Did they cure him? I mean, after all, Anthony Perkins is so likable as Norman Bates. So, watch Psycho 2. I'm pretty sure he's okay. Psycho 2.
It's 22 years later. Norman Bates
is coming home. And he's back in business. Psycho 2.
And I am really, really sad to report that the number one film is the trashy Jaws 3 in 3D. What can I say about this film? Does it star Robert Shaw in a scenery-chumping performance? No. Does it star Richard Dreyfuss as a smart-alecky oceanographer? No. Does it star Roy Scheider as our stalwart everyman cop? No. It has Dennis Quaid and Bess Armstrong and Louis Gossett Jr. And it's just so cheesy. And when I went to see this in the theater, I had a seat that was, the theater was completely crowded. We went on opening day, and I had a seat that was way off to the right-hand side, and I didn't get any of the 3D effects. So, maybe that's why I don't like Jaws 3. Jaws 3.
That's not why you don't like it.
A creature alive today has survived millions of years of evolution. It lives to kill, a mindless eating machine that will attack and devour anything. One terrified you like nothing you have ever experienced when it captured your imagination and tapped your fear like no movie before it. Then, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, two continued the legend and spread the fear. Nature's most terrifying creature takes on an all-new dimension in an all-new adventure. And for the first time, the terror of Jaws will not stop at the edge of the screen. Jaws 3D. The third dimension is terror.
Click like, subscribe, or even comment below because I want to hear what you think.